This is Michael Popok, and it's time for what we call Legal AF After Dark. Why are we talking so much about Fani Willis's after-work relationships and whether her special prosecutor is in a divorce proceeding or not? Does it matter to the indictment of Donald Trump, and why would it? And are any of these motions attacking mercilessly Fani Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, going to be successful in front of Judge MacAfee in the middle of February in Georgia? Yes or no? Thumbs up or thumbs down? We take it on Legal AF. Take a listen.
You know, Michael Popok, seeing everything. I'm glad you mentioned Susan McDougal and not Karen McDougal because it refreshed my whole recollection of the historical debacle of this kind of Republican Party. That the good thing I think about this MAGA stuff is it's like just showed in a raw, unadulterated fashion the utter hypocrisy and who they are. They're not like sneaking around it anymore. It's like, here we are, everybody. Here we are. Here's what it is. You know, and when you just take a look at like what's going on in Fulton County, the attack on Fani Willis for having an adult relationship with someone who she knew. The relationship, according to all of the declarations, took place after the investigation of Donald Trump started. And that happens sometimes, you know, in a work environment. I think that, you know, we could have discussions about that, but we ain't the morality police here on Legal AF. And I think that, you know, it is what it is. And it just seems to be this really hypocritical attack on Fani Willis. Very personal, vindictive, that she had this personal relationship with Nathan Wade. I think it's tinged with racism and calling people who are supremely qualified unqualified, where not only have they handled this case incredibly, but their whole life's work has been incredible, undermining their achievements in their career and acting like this is some sort of like get rich quick scheme when you have Donald Trump as a co-defendant or as a defendant in this case with all of the behavior that he's engaged in. But give us the latest update, Popok, on what was filed. Maybe you could touch on that photograph too of Roman's lawyer that was in the filing. Break it all down for us.
Okay. Well, first, let me answer the question that might be on people's minds. Why is it Mike Roman that is attacking the prosecutor as a surrogate proxy for Donald Trump? Why Mike Roman in particular? And having done some sleuthing and research about Mike Roman, and I got a hot take going up about it, I think earlier in the week, it's obvious why it's Mike Roman. Mike Roman is a brass knuckle fighter, a political operative who's cut his teeth with the Koch brothers and Koch Industries. He ran something that was only half jokingly referred to for the Koch brothers as the KIA, the Koch Intelligence Agency, where he used a former CIA analyst to train his people, and he ran research ops programs, you know, dirty tricks programs for the Koch brothers, and got paid a lot of money to do it. And then got brought in after having helped run Rudy Giuliani's campaign at one time when he was running for mayor, and others got into the world of Donald Trump and got brought into the White House as a person in charge of special projects and research. You know what that means? That's sort of the black ops. And then also got made the election day coordinator and what I've referred to as the mule who brought the fake elector certificates in the 7 battleground states to Mike Pence. He is known as a brass knuckler, as hard-nosed, and as a fighter, and it doesn't surprise me that he's the one that put his lawyer either up to this, and I think he's I said on a hot take, I think he's writing part of this motion practice, because his lawyer, Ashley Merchant, apparently was so close to Nathan Wade, the person that she's attacking for being incompetent. And put a pin in that for a minute. When was the last time you heard a criminal defendant challenge the credentials of the prosecutor against them, calling for a more qualified prosecutor to prosecute the case? I mean, that's what Mike Roman is saying. That guy over there, Nathan Wade, he's never tried a RICO case for racketeering against a former president. Bring in somebody else.
I want a better prosecutor to go after me.
Prosecutor who is, and Fani Willis called that out in her papers. When has a defendant ever done that? And because he's being put up to it by Donald Trump and the others. And so, in a mean-spirited way, as you said, which is tinged, and that's putting it mildly, with racism and misogyny, they've gone after this black, powerful Fulton County district attorney and her black fellow colleague, who she may or may, well, now she's admitted she's dating, but started the relationship after the indictment by the grand jury, and after certainly the special purpose grand jury recommended the indictment. So the fact that after some late nights they decided to start dating each other as two consenting adults, who cares? I love that Fani Willis pointed out in their opposition papers to the motion to disqualify, not just disqualify her and Nathan Wade, Mike Roman, and now Donald Trump in a Me Too motion. They want the whole indictment thrown out because she's seeing Nathan Wade on the side. Okay, let's break all this down. Nathan Wade took a pay cut to become a special prosecutor. There's no other way to put it. Whether he's being paid $250 an hour or $300 an hour, I am sure, given his practice as a former judge, as a person that was being hired as special counsel throughout the state, who was well known, who was a go-to person, was doing better than $300 an hour, which may sound like a lot of money to our audience, but you heard our numbers that I gave you earlier for lawyers of his vintage, even in Georgia, would be closer to $600, $700, or $800 an hour. So he took a pay cut. He could have made more than $750,000 in 2 full years doing full-time work in his law practice. That, I don't think that's beyond dispute. So he takes a pay cut. He starts a relationship with Fani Willis. Who cares? It turns out they split their DoubleTree visits to Napa Valley and some cheap cruises on Carnival Cruise Line when they were in off hours and he wasn't working the case. In the meantime, look at the guy's performance with Fani Willis. Look at their track record. They've won every major hearing. They had a special purpose grand jury, a regular grand jury. They've fought off federal removal, trying to take the case across the street to federal court up to the appellate courts. They've gotten Lindsey Graham to testify. They've gotten, 4 convictions already, including 3 lawyers for Donald Trump. They've gotten, a dozen or more cooperating witnesses now to turn state's evidence, including fake electors. And he did it all for just $700,000. I mean, that sounds like the bargain of the century. So why are we even talking about it? And you see it in the mean-spirited filing that came out. I don't know if you caught it, Ben. They created Mike Roman, and I'll talk about the social media posts that are just completely blew the doors off of Ashley Merchant, the lawyer for Mike Roman, in a minute. But Mike Roman's did not have the right to file a 2 briefs in his motion. He filed a motion to disqualify. Then there's an opposition paper that was filed on briefing set by Judge MacAfee that Fani Willis filed yesterday along with her affidavits and supporting affidavits. That's it. Then there's a reply brief. And then there's the hearing on the 15th of February, which is an evidentiary hearing. But oh no, Mike Roman gave himself his own 2 bites at the apple second piece of paper. He didn't want the news cycle to have her get the final word. So he made up his own paper and filed a reply, but not a reply, not a full reply. Just need to answer the evidentiary hearing issue, and it just gives me 6 pages to go trash Fani Willis again. And he starts it with, "Oh, you see, Judge, if we hadn't brought to your attention this salacious relationship of cohabitation between Fani and her underling, you'd never know about it." Right, because it's not relevant to anything, because there's no ethical rule or prosecutor ethics rule that's been violated by having a relationship. And she points out in her papers that there are defense lawyers in this case representing clients that are at odds in terms of testifying against each other, yet they have pillow talk. There's married couples that are representing defendants in this case. Nobody ever says anything about them. And Ashley Merchant, who spent a long period of time, and in this new paper also, saying that Nathan Wade does not have the credentials to prosecute my client, whatever that means, right? She, in 2016, and we'll put up the photo. She's at a Greek festival, so I think she's partially Greek, with a shirt that says Nathan Wade for judge. And then in her social media post says he's the most ethical, most accomplished, reciting his whole biography, his whole recitation. And I thought he wasn't qualified. If he's not so qualified, what are you doing wearing his shirt at the Greek festival pushing for his candidacy to be a judge? And she did a little footnote in her response, which was not, if I'm Fani Willis, I'd move to strike the response. Or if I were Judge MacAfee, I would say, you don't get another response. That was your response. You don't get to create your own briefing schedule. Like, I like to have another closing argument. No, you don't get another closing. You get one. So, but they hurt Mike Roman and Ashley Merchant, the fact they slid this new paper under the door for the judge, and now he'll give them whatever reply paper. But at the end of the day, this is the takeaway. There is nothing about the relationship that started after the indictment that implicates or undermines the ethics, or the indictment itself violates a canon of ethics for Fani Willis or for Nathan Wade, jeopardizes taxpayer dollars. There's not a shred of evidence, not even in the new paper made up and filed by Mike Roman at the last minute yesterday, that has any evidence that Fani Willis is lining her pocket and financial benefit because she's having a relationship with Nathan Wade and he's making money to do a day's honest labor on that case. That's all he's getting paid at a tremendous discount from his law practice. Speaking about legal fees, he's the opposite. There's not a shred of evidence. And you need to have that evidence in order to get rid of a prosecutor, because otherwise you can prosecutors are allowed, as the Georgia case that she cited in her brief said, they're allowed to have intimate relationships with other people. We don't automatically assume that people are sacrificing their professional ethics because they're also in a relationship. We're human beings. And then she also, Fani had a good way to respond to Donald Trump's motion, which is basically entirely based on her statements that she made at the historical Black church the day before Martin Luther Jr. Day 2 weeks ago, in which she defended herself on the pulpit and said, she violated the rule that prosecutors can't speak outside of the court about the case in a way that would prejudice the defendant. Well, how is the defendant prejudiced because she's defending herself in a Black church? And Fani said that's what voir dire, the jury selection process, is for. You can find out if they know anything about my statements at the church, and if they didn't, we move on. There's nothing to see here. Now, look, I want to get your view. And I did a hot take about maybe Nathan Wade should step aside and let Fani Willis do her job and not be a distraction, even just for an appearance. But the more I read of what's been filed, I think Scott McAfee needs to do two things on February 15th, and we'll cover it. Unfortunately, it'll be on YouTube, so hopefully some combination of you, me, and Karen can jump on and watch it in real time. I think he should do two things, though, not just one. I think he should put an end after the evidentiary hearing, and quickly following it, he should deny the motion to dismiss the indictment, and he should take the cloud, speaking of meteorology for today, take the cloud away that's hanging over inappropriately under Fani Willis's head and that of Nathan Wade, and say there's no grounds to dismiss the indictment nor to dismiss the prosecutors. Move on. But the second thing I think he has to do, because what's it called? Idle hands is the devil's plaything. He's got to set the trial date. He's got to set the trial date for Donald Trump and Roman and the rest. And whereas at the beginning he was like, well, I don't have a courtroom that's big enough to do one big trial. Forget it. I think he's got to set one big trial in August and have something for them to shoot for. Because you see what's happening, Ben, with all of this idle time, you're getting all the acting out and craziness and motion practice that would be a little bit tamped down if he would just set the trial date.
I agree with you. There's a hearing February 15th. I don't think Nathan Wade should step aside. Look, did this unfortunately, create some issue that perhaps, shouldn't have been created? I mean, look, the bottom line is that that Trump and the co-defendants are going to throw mud against the wall, see whatever sticks. I wanted to follow the data. I didn't want to rush in the last episode or before that to be like, well, I think this is absolutely frivolous. I really wanted to see what was to what was going to come out of this. And again, it's much to do about not just absolutely nothing, but seems to be very vindictive as well. To that point, I'll disagree with you about one thing, Popok. You kind of cast Roman as this kind of Machiavellian, calculating person linked with the Koch brothers, and that's why he's the one doing this. And sometimes I think Occam's razor, the simplest explanation, is sometimes the explanation. And I don't quite think it's that, but I think it's something that you kind of put your finger on right there. And it's this photo right here of Roman's lawyer. That's Roman's lawyer, Ashley Merchant, right there, wearing the Nathan Wade shirt. And I'll just leave it at this. There seems to be something perhaps a bit more deeply personally vindictive at Fani Willis, learning that she was in a relationship with Nathan Wade, than may meet the eye. And I think when Fani Willis dropped that photo, she was kind of giving us a hint at that. But I think it's actually being driven by Roman's lawyer. All right. At a deeper level. And look, here's the thing with Roman's cooperating with special counsel Jack Smith. So that approach does not transmute.
He's limitedly cooperating with Jack Smith.
Well, that's the cool. He's cooperating, whether it's limited or not. He could choose not to and invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So I don't know if it's, all I know is that there seems to be some deeper personal issues and personal animosity and resentment at play.
So the jeans
I need more data, but that's my initial opinion.
So the jean shorts meant more to you in that photo. I get you. I might agree with you.
It was the fact how Fani Willis was specifically posting that photo, I think, to signify a little bit of a deeper meaning of what's going on.
If that's true, I like it.
Well, I think there's some personal issues and it's deeply rooted in Atlanta politics and Fulton County politics, and that's kind of driving these very personal attacks.
Well, if you like lawyers talking about things that they know what they're talking about, then you're going to like Legal AF. The title is exactly what you think. We sit at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, and we bring you the show every week, times 5. We do about 4 or 5 curated segments that are important from that week of things we think you need to know. Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On the YouTube channel from MeidasTouch, you're here already, 2 million strong if you haven't joined already. Free subscribe. And then pick us up on audio podcast platforms of your choice. If you know all about Legal AF, use that as a gateway entree. You can send it off to friends and family and people in your life and say, that show that I like, Legal AF, here's an example. Here's a 10-minute commitment. If you like it, join us for the full ride. If you have no idea what I'm talking about on the MeidasTouch Network, when I say the words Legal AF, that was Legal AF. I am Michael Popok. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, think about joining our audience. It would be really great for us and hopefully for you as well. So until my next hot take in Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.